No bad with Mary, thanks for here.
All right, good afternoon. The time is now 3:32. And I would like to call to order this meeting of the Fiscal Services Committee of the Orange County Legislature. A copy of the agenda for the meeting may be found on the county website under the tab for the legislature. At this time, I ask you to please silence your phones and electronic devices and please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have roll call, please?
Benton. Russia.
Here.
Padu.
Here.
Hotel. Here. Miscavige.
Here.
Dewey. Menuda.
Here.
Feeny.
Here.
Wow.
Thank you. First on our agenda, I'd like to get a motion and a second for a request to sell to the town of Montgomery a property at 131 Bracken Road, town of Montgomery, section 30, block 1, lot 76, a 139.7 acre parcel of vacant land. The property is part of a tract that has been held by the county since 1991 and has been utilized only for limited crops since that time. The town wishes to purchase the property from the county for a tourism-based project that would provide substantial economic benefit to the county. It's legislative request number 140. Can I get a motion in a second? Legislator Brescia, any second? Second. Legislator Skevich. Come on up. Director Wiley.
Afternoon, all. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to present today. Okay, so as you heard, this is for us asking permission to sell this 139.7 acre parcel that's on Route 17M to the town of Montgomery. They desire the property so that they can possibly develop it for a tourism-based project that would be a tremendous benefit to the town and to the county. This property's been held by us since 1991 when it was part of a tract of land that was donated for an assemblage of land for other purposes. And this land has just been left basically unused since that time, short of a crop field that we've been renting out to a farmer for $675 per year. This property costs us about $20,000 a year in taxes. So us hanging on to it and not doing anything with it isn't necessarily helping anyone out. I'm proposing that we sell this to the town of Montgomery for the project that they would like to develop.
17K.
Oh, you're right. I probably did. That's on 17K between I-84 on one side, 17K on the other, and
Barron Road.
yeah, Barron Road.
It's the closest cross street.
Okay, questions, comments? Just like
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken, when we got this property from the Hill family, what did the contract say? Did it say it was supposed to be forever parkland?
No, this is not part of the property
part
that
of
was
the-
supposed to be used for parkland. That's on the other side of 17K. That property was designated for parkland.
When didn't we work with the town of Montgomery already where your ball fields are and stuff now? Isn't that what it is?
That's on the other side.
It's on the other side of the road?
This is the site I think that we were looking at for
Yeah.
4-H.
For 4-H, yeah.
And, and possibly the air traffic controllers that, Donald had talked about way back when.
So actually, we're looking, we've held it this long, but never had a plan for it except for the 4-H proposal. It never went through. So now we're looking to sell it to a commercial. It could go commercial too, right? I mean, that's what this letter's asking about, a dinosaur park there. But if it was it designated to stay open to the public or county owned?
No, there's
It
actually
doesn't say that at all in the contract anywhere.
there's no restrictions on this property. Our proposal would put in place some restrictions that would limit the use of the property to a tourism-based industry to prevent something like warehouses or something that's less desirable to the town and to the county. I do have some maps and copies of an appraisal that I had done about a year ago for for the county. I'm not sure if you have those, so I just bought extra copies of those now. So that way everyone can kind of be on the same page and understand what the property looks like. And it's that way. Here's copies of these three. Oh. While you're looking at this, if you mind continuing, the property does have some difficulties in that it has substantial wetlands that kind of filter throughout the site. They're not all in one area. They divide it into 3 upland areas. So it does kind of limit the use of the property in some ways. It's not that a single large footprint would be better for most development, but in this case, it doesn't really lend itself to certain development. It does not have water and sewer available. They are nearby, but not available to the site without being extended. And that would be a substantial cost. We're just not willing to bear that ourselves. The zoning was changed a little while ago to I3, which is a light industrial zone. And the proposal that the town has would allow a form of commercial recreation. In this case, tourism-based industry would be allowed.
Yes, Legislator Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we planning to sell it for the amount that you have in the last paragraph on the cover page of this?
The 2,035,000?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Okay. And then my second question would be, if we're selling it to municipality, so essentially it'll be off the tax rolls until the municipality then turns over and sells it to a commercial enterprise, and they already have somebody lined up for that commercial enterprise. What is your take on that? Or
They have somebody that they think will go through with it. But the sale to the town is more broad-based than just that individual developer, which right now looks like the Dino Park. So that the Dino Park fell through, and another tourism-based economic development project came along within the 3 years it's provided for and what we say the contract should be for, then that could be substituted. So we're selling it to the town because they want a piece of land to go ahead and develop for tourism-based economic development. And the executive branch would very much like that to occur. But it isn't specific as to the Dino Park. They could substitute another project for that.
and would that one proposal would take the entire area, the 139.78?
That's correct. So we'd have a contract to sell it. Title wouldn't pass right away to the town. So we'd have a contract set forth in the resolution. It'd be subject to various conditions. One is that this would be a contract to sell it to the town. Title would pass and closing would happen 60 days after this project gets approved. And at that point in time, the county would be paid in full for that when the title passes to the town. They would then in turn, I assume, pass title to the developer at that point in time. But the deed that we would pass to the town that would be required to have the same conditions being passed on to the developer would require that it remain forever tourism-based economic development property.
And if it didn't, it would revert back to the county.
Yes, if they start to use it for something else, it automatically reverts back to the county. If it lays fallow, for instance, they start with a project and then that project after 10, 15 years or so ends. And then it's not used for anything for 3 years, it also reverts back to the county.
And then if I just one other point to a question that you asked, if the town ends up selling it for more than $2,035,000, that's what the county will get the sale price.
Right, yeah, I understood that when I was reading it, but I guess my final question would be is why we're not just doing it as a county we already own the property through our economic development in the department of the county, and our tourism department of the county.
Because we can't pick and choose a developer to go ahead and decide who to sell it to. We would have to simply sell it at the highest bidder, which might not be a tourism-based. It's more difficult to go ahead and sell it unused land like that for the county. We are allowed to sell it to another municipality. Towns and villages can pick and choose. The county can't, but towns and villages can. So we are selling it to the town to do tourism-based economic development. And they then have essentially, unless it's extended, 3 years to go ahead and get somebody to do that and get that approved.
I'm going to refer to a different entity, but we did that specifically with the buildings on Grand Street in Newburgh. We specifically put out the proposal for it to be a, boutique hotel. We can critique how we want that property to be done. And if it's already deeded as a tourism-based property, why that didn't make sense to me. You said earlier that the property was already designated as tourist-based property.
No, I didn't say that. No, it's not now designated as anything. When we deed it over, it will have that deed restriction in it.
Okay, I misunderstood that when you asked Legislator Paduke's question, answered his question in regards to the hills and the property.
But that's the zone, that was the zoning. I think maybe there's a disconnect here relative to the
Yeah,
zoning.
I'm
But the
The
zoning
is
would
held by the
allow
town.
Right.
The zoning allows this to go forward.
They did the approval process,
Yes,
the planning board.
yeah, it has to go through all the environmental reviews and everything at the town level. And the zoning by the town allows a tourism-based commercial development to occur there. But as far as the deed, we would put deed restrictions in as set forth in the proposed resolution. That would then require it to be used only for that purpose.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, I do have a few. How would the change in value, say it takes 2 or 3 years, and is the value of the property likely to change? And is there a provision to account for that other than in the fact that we're going to get whatever the sale price is? In other words, if the appraisal were to go up to 2.4 million, would that be the floor relative to sale?
Well, we're selling the property at this point based upon the value at this point.
Right.
So we're not, when we go into contract, you would agree upon a price that's based upon the best information we have at the time. The market could go up or down, but because we would have a contract price basically set at this number, that's what it would be, unless the town were to get more from the developer because the value may increase. In which case, then you could say, well, because they're getting 2.4 or 2.5 million, then you would be getting that number instead of the 2,035,000.
Okay. And then we have deadlines in there as to when certain things have to be accomplished. If we get to a point, and then 3 years seems to be the magic number, if we get to a point in 2 years and 8 months, that you're going to need another 8 months to finalize the deal, does that then need to come back here to the legislature to get that
No, the
additional
way-
time?
No, the way that it's set forth, if you look at the end of the resolution, it has several conditions, the time constraints, some of which you were just noting. If the property is ever used for something else, or if the property shall not be used for a span of 3 years for anything. Under all those conditions, the title to the property shall automatically revert back to the county without any demand. But the time constraints noted in 6A and 6C, it should be C here. It's a typo on my part, I guess. It says 6A, B, and then B again. It should really be C. May be extended by the county, acting by and through the county executive, if in writing and for good cause demonstrated. So if it was the 2 years, 8 months, and it looked like a deal was coming up and they needed another 3 months, the county executive could go ahead and extend that for the necessary time without having to come back to the legislature.
I did have one other question, but I think because of the nature of it, I'm going to ask that we go into executive session. And I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of this being a proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities or sale or exchange of securities held by such public body, but only when public publicity would substantially affect the value thereof. Can I get a second?
Second.
Legislator Riskevich, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. In executive session.
Ready to do that.
All right, we're live. The committee has returned from executive session and we're in regular session. And we're still in discussion on the first item on the agenda, the sale of county-owned property to the town of Montgomery. Any further discussion on this? Yes, Legislator Brescia.
Yes, Chairman, I'd just like to say that I think it's, one of the few chances that we have to sell property for what it's worth. Or, we've taken haircuts on many properties since I've been here over the years. With Salesian, Camp LaGuardia, the Duchess Quarry, which might never happen. You have the town of Montgomery board unanimously supporting this. I haven't heard much opposition locally. That's not to say that you might not get some down the road, but I like some of the tenets of the project that I've heard thus far. I really haven't delved into it, which is not my legislative district, but it's in the town of Montgomery. I think it's probably win-win. You have a lot of opposition in the town of Montgomery to large warehouses, and this is an alternative to that. And the traffic patterns are not early in the morning or 5 o'clock at night, they're later in the evening. Later, I say 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 10 o'clock in the morning, they would open kind of like a mini Lego land sort of. But I've heard a lot of positives in the town of Montgomery. Now, for once, maybe we can get fair value for our property if we do sell it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Minority Leader
Yeah,
Padilla.
just as we talked before. Chairman Cheney talked about 2 years, 8 months, and then we're gonna give up our right to that property to the county executive to extend it. He could do whatever he wants for years, right? He could have control of it rather than coming back to us. I mean, if there's an issue and it's 3 months out, we meet every month. Why couldn't he come back to us? Why does he have, I know he signs contracts and all that, but the fact is that we own the property, not the county executive. So why would he be able to extend it when you have an opportunity to come back to the legislature? That's my question. I have a big concern about that because we've done it in the past.
I'm not sure what you're referring to in the past, but I mean, to say that it's contracts and all that, that's a charter provision that gives that power to the county executive. It's not just willy-nilly power. But if this needed to be extended by 2 weeks, it just is, to me, not the way that real estate normally works, is that then you would have to go through a whole legislative body to get an extension of 2 weeks on one of the provisions that is set forth here. I have set forth these dates with respect to the 3 years from the date of the purchase of the contract. The closing shall occur within 60 days of that. And those were timeframes that if something comes up, typical of a real estate project, where you go ahead and have, we have to extend the closing another 5 days because something happens. That is pretty pro forma about what to do. If you want to put some outside dates on it, that if it gets extended by more than 200% of the number of days, or 100%, or whatever you want to put on it, you have the ability to do that. I'm just saying that it's not a very efficient way to deal with these things. I don't think it's giving up power to the county executive, more power than he has typically with every single contract that this county enters into.
What about 3 months? Is that a reasonable amount of time?
The way that I picked 3 months is that it's 3 months after they get the 3 months, it's 3 years to go ahead and get to all their approvals, right? Which is more than enough time, right? In fact, they could easily get to their approvals 18 to 24 months. This would be enough time to likely, if Dino Park didn't work out, but they had another tourism base, they could substitute and still get it within the 3 years. Which is why the 3 years was chosen. And then once the project, they get approval for that project, they have to close within 60 days. Those are the two big timeframes involved.
I mean, I would think it's gonna move quicker than, because this gentleman, I spoke to him once or twice, he called me, Mr. Gold. And he's got a state grant that's been just sitting there and it's gonna expire, I believe. So it's gonna happen. He's gonna get that grant, it's gonna have to move fairly quick.
If it ends up to be this initial project of the Dino Park, 3 years is much more time than needed. They will be getting the final approval likely within 18 months to 24 months. That assumes a lengthy seeker process, maybe shorter than that. But for instance, Legoland got final approval in 11 months from the time that they filed for the planning board application. So it can be done rather quickly. I'm not saying that they'd be able to do it. Legoland is a much larger project, but there's also a lot more money from Legoland to make sure that all the reports got done very quickly. That may not happen on something like the Dino Park. But I don't expect that it's going to take 3 years for any project. You can probably fit one project going most of the way through, falling down, and then get another project in there and still be within the 3 years for the final approval.
Relative to the timeframes, I'm sorry.
Oh, but, well, I was just saying, the town is the vehicle that would make this happen or something, a similar development happen, so.
Yes.
I mean, but I can see Mike's sense, if it doesn't happen and it just gets prolonged, then maybe at some point it should come back to the legislature. You know, because the legislature might change its mind if nothing moves forward.
You can put something in here that
Yeah,
if
a
it
reasonable
doesn't
number.
happen within 5 years, then the whole thing goes away.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, if you wanted to put a, drop dead date for a better term, but if you wanted to put a final date, that would go back to the legislature, that would be, 6D or something like that.
That's what I would like to see that myself, propose it.
Yeah, I guess going back to, if I could just ask a question, going back to some of the things you said about the process, you need another 5 days, you need another week. If we were to give latitude to the county executive, say an additional 3 months, would that cover most of those issues?
I wish I had that kind of crystal ball.
I realize that, we're all talking
no.
pretty optimistically
I'm,
here.
the way that I base this is partly upon my experience in seeing very many projects over the past 40 years of go through the process, go through real estate, associated real estate transactions, dealing with that. I thought this was a reasonable period of time. I don't think that'll be close to 3 years, but 3 years will give a lot of bounce. But if you want to go ahead and say, however, if there's not a planning board approval within 5 years, then it must go back to the legislature. We can do that.
Well, but right now, it would be 3 years, it must go back to the legislature.
No, because the county executive could extend the 3 years.
Right, so put in a,
That's what it says
Okay,
now,
all right.
that's what we're looking to change.
I know that. That's why I suggested another term that the county executive would have it up to, say, the 5 years, and then after that, it would have to come back here. The county executive doesn't have it.
So in reference to item number 4 on the resolve, it says closing shall occur within 60 days of the date of the final town planning board approval for the TBD project, at which time the purchase price shall be paid in full. Well, if they don't meet that 60 days, if they're at 61 days and they haven't moved, then can the county executive extend that?
Yes, he can extend the dates that are set forth in 3 and 4 and 5. 3, 4, and 5 are essentially incorporated into 6A.
Okay. Minority Leader Paduk?
Yeah, we have all these assurances, you're saying that you think it'll happen in 3 years. I'd like to make a motion that in number 3, that the town planning board approval for the initial TB project must occur within 3 years of date of execution of the purchase contract or return to the legislature, if not completed by then. You seem to make it seem like 2 projects can get approved in 3 years. Okay, well, if they don't, then come back to us, tell us, maybe, that's the proposal I made. That after the 3 years, it comes back here, not giving any extension to the county executive, because we own the property until we do that. We've done it once. I didn't support it then, I'm not supporting it now either. But I think like you said, 3 years is reasonable. I would hope in 3 years, and if not, then it comes back to us and we determine what happens.
I'll
But
second that.
okay. I have a motion and a second. Minority Leader Paduk, Legislator Huftel, to amend the motion, the resolution, item number 3, to indicate that it would return to the county legislature if that provision isn't met.
Right,
Time
3 years, right.
Okay. Discussion?
I think I'm gonna vote for that. I think that's reasonable for now. I mean, if the county exec or the town is moving along,
It won't be.
see that they're moving along in a positive direction, I'm sure the legislature is gonna extend it. You know, within reason. So I think that we should have that latitude, really.
But that still allows the county executive to extend the others. Yes or no? Yes, right?
The way it's, the way that the present motion is on the table, yeah.
So,
How could we fix that? So 3 years, it comes back.
I might have
You got the answer?
something. I guess at this point, would you consider withdrawing the motion? To amend, the motion to amend?
Just to hear your thing.
Well, I mean, they said it's not going to accomplish what we're intending because the county executive still has the ability to
Yeah, that's what
extend for
He has
everything
to-
else.
He has the ability, if, right now, what's on the table is to not have the county exec have the ability to extend the 3-year approval for the project, 3 years from the date of execution of the purchase contract. That would be firm. So if it didn't happen then this whole thing goes away. That's what's on the table.
Unless we
But
as a
that's-
legislative body choose to extend.
Well, you'd have to go ahead and extend, yes, it could be written in there that unless the legislature agrees to extend.
That's what he's saying, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I know this may be out of right progression we should be doing here, but I thought that the last paragraph by saying the time constraints noted in conditions 6A and 6C may be extended and then add by no more than 3 months by the county executive acting by and through, by the county acting by and through the county executive, if in writing and for good cause demonstrated. So basically, he would only have 3 months to do whatever things need to be done to cover things that don't meet the timeframes that are shown.
I don't see where this is necessary at all.
And if he doesn't meet the 3 months, it comes back to the legislature.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. He only
You
has the
want to add
latitude
3
of
months
3
and
months.
3 years, I'm okay with it.
It gives you something, you know, has to come back to us. What's
Yeah,
3
if
months?
it
3
doesn't
months.
get accomplished in that 3 months after the 3-year period.
Right.
Itself, it comes back to the.
It comes back to
Well,
us.
but it also gives him the latitude to be able to extend the closing by 5 days if it doesn't close right away.
Well, if nothing happens in that amount of time. If it's in the process and you're at 85, 90% of getting to the end, then I'm sure the legislature's not gonna say,
No,
they'll
but
give you approval.
but we don't want things to grind to a halt without happening. And if they're, if they need 5 days or a week or 2 weeks, I think 3 months should be adequate without the crystal ball.
That's what we're
None of
voting
us
on.
have. All right, yes, Legislator Tortel.
Just to clarify what you're saying to remove the amendment that Legislator Paduk motioned and I second, and amend the last paragraph to say that after the 3-month time, the issue will return to the legislature.
He can only extend it no more than 3 months. That's what I was.
Beyond the 3 years.
Well, whatever deadline, there are a number of different deadlines
Deadlines,
in
right.
here. So
Okay.
any deadline that exists he would be limited to no more than 3 months.
Okay, so how would you word that then?
Well,
Well,
do you
you
have,
could word-
if
Or
you.
we'd have to
a
withdraw
basic-
it.
No, well, yeah,
Obviously.
I asked that to be withdrawn and then in that sentence, the last sentence would just say the time constraints noted in conditions 6A and 6C may be extended by no more than 3 months by the county acting by and through the county executive if in writing and for good cause demonstrated.
Where is the guarantee, though, that in that sentence where it would, or that paragraph, where it would return back to the legislature? I think that's.
It would say-
Because he can't do anything.
Okay, all right,
Well,
just want to make sure.
What I was going to propose is that it say, I would put it in a slightly different place than you did,
Okay,
Barry, but it would be, the way I would have it is the time constraints noted in 6A and 6C may be extended by the county acting by and through the county executive by no more than 3 months, if in writing and for good cause demonstrated, period. Any further extensions must be granted only by the Orange County Legislature.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. So Mike, if you want to withdraw, I'll make the motion as.
I'm gonna make the motion as he put.
well, first we need to withdraw
Yeah,
the one. You agree to withdraw?
Yes.
And your second agree to withdraw?
Yes.
No,
Now I'll make the motion for your change.
And I'll second it.
So are we clear? Are we clear on the motion?
Yeah, he gets 3 years and 3 months. That's what
3
he
months,
gets.
okay.
Right.
All
If
right,
it doesn't happen, it's
And then-
back in here.
Then it will return to the county legislature. Yeah, I'll
all right,
second.
so,
Mike motion, I seconded the amendment.
okay, we will now, any further discussion on the amendment? All right, we'll now ask for a vote on the amendment. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed?
Can
Abstain.
You're abstaining? Okay.
I ask a process question? I know Betsy's not here. But I've never been through this before. Is it the will of the legislature that I make these changes and then the changes get proposed to Ways and Means? Or that this just stays as it is and then we find out what Ways and Means does and then we make a determination how the resolution should be put before the legislature?
Usually, we would mention at Ways and Means that this passed amended, and we would mention that.
I can provide
But it would be
legislature
helpful.
with a red line,
Yes,
copy
that
of
would be
this.
very, very helpful.
and then you could have both the original and the red line for the Ways and Means.
Yes, so the agenda will stand the same way. And then when it comes to that item, it will be introduced, that the discussion ensued, an amendment was made, and this is what was passed there. And if you provide something with a red line, that's
Should I
going
do
to
that
be
to Jean
super
or-
helpful. Yes, please.
You
Thank
should
you.
pass the amendment.
Majority Leader Fagione, are you?
I was
Good.
just going to echo exactly what the chairwoman said.
Good, that's. You're on the same page. All right, so we have an amended motion. I would like to get a vote on the amended motion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
One abstention. All right. Thank you very much for your time and patience.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. There, now we're going to next Parks Department. First item is request supplemental appropriation of capital projects budget in the amount of $97,337 for the construction of a pole barn for Stony Ford Golf Course maintenance. The amount of the proposed project in the 2023 capital plan was $135,000. Upon approval, the funds will be added to increase capital project number 717. It's bonding legislative request number 153. Could I get a motion in a second? I'll make the motion. Second,
Second.
Senator Riskevich. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Deanna's going to walk us through this one.
Okay, so we originally came in for this project, to get the project started. We just had an estimate from off the streets. It did not include prevailing wage or the electrical. So once we took it out to bid, bids came back, lowest bidder, and we now have to increase the project by $97,000. There was backup documentation to show the different vendors that were contractors that were included in this.
Questions or comments? So were these were bids that the county obtained for the project?
Yes.
Went out to,
Any
Any-
prevailing wage, the first one?
well, that was an estimate, right?
That
The
was just,
estimate,
right, to get it,
It
and
failed.
at that meeting, at that committee, we did mention we would have to come back in, because we would have to be able to prevail.
any recollection as to how many bidders we had for this?
It's three, right?
Yeah.
Three,
Okay.
Um, Further questions or comments, legislator Menuda?
Nice square feet.
It is 30 by 60, 16 foot 6 inch high ceiling.
It's a relatively, substantial number for the electric location.
Was Butler the only, so explain, it's just a standard pole barn building, metal siding, metal, right? Wood interior, pole barn?
Yes. And garage doors. You have this one?
Is there a ceiling in it? Or is it just open trusses?
What's that?
Is there a ceiling in it?
Insulated walls and ceiling.
Insulated,
Yes.
and this is being used for what?
This is going to be for 2 more bays to do maintenance on the golf equipment.
Thank you, okay.
It's concrete floor.
The installation is back from the interior spec.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
It'll be heated.
that's fine.
Yes.
And the electric, you said there was extenuating circumstance on the electric or something of that nature, because of its location?
Well, we have to pull it through the existing building, and so we're gonna run it, we have to pick up from a location that's, how far away is it? It's so 200 feet away from the nearest power source. So we're gonna do that in-house. We'll dig the trench, put a conduit in,
Underground conduit.
underground conduit, and then the contractor will pull it through.
Thank you. All right, I'm comfortable. Thank you. Okay, legislator Tortel.
Is this the same one you came to us several months back and we had a discussion in regards to, you had a map of the site? And we had a discussion as I had, there were so many other buildings already in that area. And we questioned the actual need of this new structure based on the amount of structures that were already there and some of them that were being underutilized or utilized, for parts that we've replaced the equipment for already.
Those buildings have been there since the park was built. So we clearly grown from that, and every square inch of what is there now is being used. We wouldn't be trying to add additional square footage if we didn't need it. And we just invested, when I say we, all of us, hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment. And we take care of our own equipment. We had mechanics there. And, we can't let this stuff, sit outside or not be properly maintained. That's kind of what got us in the problem where, we've been on this 5-year plan to replace equipment that's, a couple of decades old. So,
No, I'm not disputing that, but last time we met, you had indicated that several of the buildings are being used to house the old equipment that we've already replaced. I believe we've agreed to sell the salvage parts and stuff for equipment that we're not going to be utilizing anymore. So my question was, would it behoove us, instead of building a brand new structure, to utilize the existing structure that we already have in?
I had this conversation with the golf superintendent because I anticipated that this would come up. And he informed me that every building that is there is currently being used. It's filled to its fullest occupancy, and that this is a needed building, and he would be happy if anybody would like to come out and tour the buildings, he would be happy to show everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to do that because I have past experience with a park that had 2 golf courses and executive and championship. And with the golf managers and
I think there may be a little disconnect. There's the equipment. I don't recall saying it specifically that, we're storing equipment we're not using. Whatever is being used whatever's being stored is being used.
yeah, you said something about salvage part, some of those.
Well, yeah, that maybe that's,
salvage parts.
so, we cannibalize whatever we sell or, goes out to auction, but that's a small portion of what goes on there.
Okay, any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye? Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Oh, abstain.
I'm gonna abstain till I.
Abstention. Okay. All right, a couple of department updates. start with the museum project, please.
Okay, so Deanna will walk you through this one too, just give a little background. So we did receive a draft copy a few days ago, about 10 days ago. We expect the full copy, the full report this week. So our anticipation is that at the next meeting, we'll have the full, complete report on the museums with very hard numbers. But what we do have, we thought we'd share with you, and if you had any questions, we could go through those, but we're right there. It's unfortunate that it's one more week and, the meeting is today, but we will have the full report this week.
And we did send this in an email earlier
Yes.
today with basic summaries of each of the locations, just to give you an idea of what the architectural firm has found and what their recommendations are. There's also multiple smaller outbuildings that I did not include in this. I figured once we get the complete report, that we'll give it to you as a whole. This is excluding the mechanical systems because we have not received that as of yet.
Yeah, that's the lion's share of the portion that's missing for the final draft is the HVAC and the mechanical estimates for replacement and installation of those units.
So the first 2 pages are Hill Hold. Any highlights that you'd like to point out to the committee?
The first 2 pages is the Hill Hold, the summary of recommendations for the Hill Hold.
Well, 3 pages, right?
Is it three?
Yes, I'm sorry, 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's.
Front, print, front, back. So are there any outstanding things that you might want
I
to
think,
raise?
and again, I'm not an engineer, but, experience, limited experience as a builder, tells me that structurally, that is of some concern what they discovered in the basement.
Water infiltration.
There'll be
Water can be our enemy at times.
100%, and some of the timber, some of the structural support for the first floor in the basement, was compromised. So a structural engineer was there about 3 weeks ago. His report will be included in the final draft.
And then next, we have Brick House.
Brick house is what I was talking about. Sorry about the basement.
Well, no, there was
Oh, is it?
Hill Hold also.
Correct, yes.
I have a question on Hill Hold, or should I wait?
No,
till-
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so on this one, on page 14 or the second page of the Hill Hold one, is there anything we can do without waiting for the final report to mitigate some of this water infiltration, such as replacing the chimney caps with new material, or doing something about the drainage, anything we could do about the drainage in and around the property to mitigate the situation until everything is put together? I mean, I brought in beams on the floor joist also, but I mean, if we stop some of the water infiltration,
Well, I
nobody's
mean,
walking out of the beams.
From what, this looks like the perimeter drainage, I think what they're talking about is almost, like footing drains and things like that. That's beyond the park's scope, but the second that this report comes through and we're green lighted, they're prepared to do the work. In addition to, though, we should also mention that once these final report comes through, we will need architectural working drawings. So that's a component that will also add to the cost for the repairs that are suggested. But we can take a look at that in-house and see what we can do immediately.
I would ask you to please do that. And then this building's is it on the National Registry
Yes.
also, historic places?
Yeah, so we just have to be careful,
You can consult with the architect as well to see what his recommendation is. He may say that this is something that we should wait on and do with the whole preservation project.
Mhm.
And it also is going to be a decision as to which direction the county is going to go with these museums and what kind of money we're going to put towards.
There was a national show that came in and talked about the building and they're pretty good with building and old barns and so they're reconstructing and deconstructing.
Any other questions on Hill Hold?
And just so you said the mechanicals are coming in the time.
Yeah, Mike, we should have it, they're telling us we'll have it Thursday or Friday. As soon as we have that final draft, that'll include all the estimates for the 3 different levels of repair.
We'll get them, we don't have to wait to get them, you can email them to us.
As soon as we have, you'll have it.
So given that you're getting a final draft, I would imagine you're gonna need some time to look at it. You're probably gonna have others look at it.
100%. Yeah, we'll have to digest it and then talk to.
When do you think you'll have the final? Yeah, are we talking 2 months?
I think honestly, if we get it next week, within 30 days. Within 30
So
days,
that-
we have, and then the big thing there is then, the decision has to be made, what level of money are we gonna spend for these projects? Are we gonna go for the basic one that basically brings everything up to snuff and stops whatever deterioration, the next level, and then, all out?
Yeah, I was just trying to think ahead.
Yeah.
So tentatively, let's plan to have you come back.
Sure.
At the August Physical Services Committee meeting.
Okay.
And by then, we should have a lot clearer picture as to what's going on.
100%.
It's good to see these steps are moving forward. Anything relative to Brick House that you wanted, well, you did highlight the problems with
Yeah.
in the structure. Okay.
And I will say that currently, the Hill Hold Museum is open for tours on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 4. We initially had planned to also have Brick House open. We did hire a seasonal docent to do that. But because of the structural issues, it was recommended by the architectural firm not to open it. Their structural engineer is evaluating it and they're going to give us a report. And once we get that report, there are some minor things that we can do. But we have to understand how many people can be in the house at one time, so.
Bernardi, you're
Just on that question, they're gonna come with prices on this?
Yes.
The full report's gonna have prices to do everything, and we're gonna get to pick and choose. basically.
Correct, but these are just estimates and you have to understand, we have to go through a whole bidding
Oh, yeah, no,
process.
I know
hire-
that.
Yeah,
Well,
So
design.
we will have numbers.
we will have.
Numbers attached.
They, they will give us estimates, yes. We have to put a number in there for the architect engineer plans, for these things.
Legislator Menuda? Thank you. Cleaning through this, I think the only thing that concerns me is the mortar condition and the mortar joints,
Which,
monitoring them. I'm sorry, this is for Hill Hold.
Okay.
Exterior foundation walls, monitor condition of the mortar joints, spot as necessary. Spot points, why are they monitoring the joints? Are we talking about crack monitoring? We have a structural failure here?
Well, the structural engineer is going there, so we wait to see what he says about that. But my sense is that much like Algonquin Park, which we're working on now, so a lot of that water has deteriorated just from weather. So, my sense is that a lot of this may be, pointing out and repairing some of the joints and the mortar connections.
So if the architect could just clarify that, the monitor condition of the mortar joints, usually you only monitor their condition if there's separation. So.
Yeah, 100%. And we can do that. And fortunately, we're doing the work at Algonquin now, so we have, we can certainly pick the brains of the guys that are working out there too.
And this, sorry, this will be completed, when is the report by next meeting?
I think,
You're saying
we're gonna come back, we'll come back in the
They're gonna have a draft,
final draft. And-
final draft in a week. Is that, you're gonna circulate that?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
the
I think once,
legislature-
I think, if I could have just a couple of days to go through it.
Oh, definitely.
And then we'll circulate it, and then we'll be back at the August, and you guys can come up with the prices. Because with the guesstimates, as I like to say, we have to be careful, make sure that it's within the No reality.
So process-wise, I'm very comfortable with where we are right now. They're gonna be, the architect and structural engineer are gonna be providing estimates, or this is something?
They will be providing estimates, 3 different levels of estimates. One would be basically to preserve and mothball the museums. The second one would be to open, I would say, at the level that they're open now. And the third level would be a much higher level with a grander scope where we kind of, I don't want to say go back to the way it used to be years ago with the farm animals and all, but utilize the facilities at a higher level than what they're being used at now.
Well,
At a true, I think at a truer level, as to the historic nature of it, because
Right.
if, on Hillhold, I just happened to notice that there's a modern kitchen and bathroom in the structure. Well, if that doesn't need to be there,
Right.
it's not really consistent with the historic
With
nature
that,
of
with
the
that,
building.
with that period. And in addition to that, there's gonna be a discussion on staffing and, the positions that were approved. Is that gonna be enough? And then, more importantly to us, where are we gonna staff these people? Because, at parks right now, at Grahamsky Lodge, each office is full. We don't have room for any additional staff there. So we're gonna have to find a place for them. We have some ideas which we can talk about, in August. And some outline buildings.
Do you want to finish? Yes.
So you mentioned mothballing 3 levels, so are we gonna mothball these buildings?
No, no, no.
No.
We're getting 3 different
That's your
prices.
choice.
No, so
You're gonna have a
the
choice.
estimates we're gonna get are gonna be grouped into 3 categories.
Correct.
One is just stabilize and mothball. The second one is make whatever necessary changes there are to maintain them and have them accessible to the extent they are now. And the third one is to,
Full
go
blown.
full historic.
Full start restoration.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, okay, appreciate it.
Minority Leader
Just
Purdue.
a comment, over the years, we've been talking about upgrading Hill Hold to a venue too. I mean, it's like we just talk about stuff for a year and then it goes away. Now we're talking about just fixing them maybe back to where they are. I've been at some events there and I've talked about that. We hold a lot of events there. I forget what the name of them groups are, but I've been to a few events where they had the tent set up. We talked about the possibility of getting a bathroom trailer.
Mike, we're 100% behind that. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it would be a great revenue source for the county. But it's above our pay grade to pick which level we want. That's why we're gonna bring you back the 3 levels. And I just thought, we thought that having 3 different choices is the fairest way to do it. So
No, I understand. that. I just-
we're all for it. I mean, I'd
And
love to see.
perhaps the third level, the highest level would include adding what you're suggesting.
That,
I'd love to see,
That's fine.
I'd love to see Wendy's over there, Wendy's at the Arboretum, Wendy's everywhere. I mean, or events. It's awesome for the county.
To get to that level, Mike, you're also looking at a lot of maintenance and upgrade because the building is being used constantly at that point.
yeah.
The only other concern is the structural, to make sure we don't have more than enough people on the loading based on what I read on
No,
this.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that. It isn't like we don't have any money. This is the time to do it. If we're gonna make these changes and upgrade and have some venues in Orange County, such great historical venues to have weddings and stuff at, now's the time to do it. It isn't like we got $20,000 in the bank. We're talking $130 million in surplus. Why aren't we investing it in the properties that we have that are important to this county? That's the part that I'm focused on.
I don't think
And I'm
anybody's
hoping that,
disputing.
we get to that.
We're just getting three options. In fact, I think the first 2 are probably don't even hardly even need
I
it.
think it would be really cool to go back, have the goats there and let them participate in the wedding and, it'd be awesome.
Keep the poison ivy, to the goatee guy.
There you go.
All right. Never Sink Valley Museum is also on here. Any comments relative to
I would
that
say,
at this point?
I mean, that structure is probably in the most difficult position, as far as, it's rough shape.
Has the most needs?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
it's in rough shape.
All right, very good. Any others have questions? All right, can we move on to active parks projects, please?
So we also sent out email today to give you an update on all of our active projects. I can review it with you, or if you just have certain questions. I also provided some backup photographs of some of our projects?
The deck replacement, Ramsky Lodge.
Correct.
Yes. But we just received the last bit of material and,
No, he's still ordering.
it is. So,
Got a question.
yes,
So I understand that deck materials have come down and are more available. And I'm wondering are we at a fixed price with the contractor or are we?
we're doing the labor in-house. So we've ordered the material through whatever, with the vendor that's available through the county.
Vendor
So,
that the county works with. Right?
right, so the point of my statement is that material costs have come down on decks. My question is, are we receiving the value in that or are we bought in at a certain price?
It would be the point that he orders it. He's been ordering when things are available, he's been putting in
Thank
for
you.
that.
Okay, thank you.
So the price is determined at the point of order,
Thank you.
not predetermined 6 months ago by
Right.
the bid. That's,
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah,
all right.
So, I mean, we can just go through the list. The pickleball courts are ready ready to be paved. We're just waiting on, DPW is helping us out with the layout. Ottaway Building and the Algreen Pavilion, where we met with the architects. They're working on those. The powder mill structures are on the way. If anybody wants to go by there and look, it's kind of, it's kind of cool to see what they're doing with those structures. I was out there this morning. It doesn't look like a lot's going on right now, but there is, and by the end of the year, it should be wrapped up. Winding Hills Park, we paved there, spent a big chunk of change, but it is awesome. I mean, it really needed it. It was been like 30 plus years since it was paved. I get constant emails and phone calls about how great, how nice it looks. We're able to do the entire roadway system in there, including including where the parking, or the camping is. So a new playground equipment has been installed at D&H Park. It looks awesome. Ben O'Dean's got some pictures of that for you. They're working on the Stony Ford Park,
At day
Tom's
camp.
Pool, at day camp with another new playground. Water project, long way to water project that was, presented before I became commissioner. They're gonna mobilize on July 10th. I'm sure you saw the Facebook post and about the Heritage Trail. We paved from Goshen to Chester. And tomorrow they're paving the parking lot in the village behind Trailside Treats.
He was working out there today, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the segment 3 is the Heritage Trail, which is on the outside of Middletown through out on some grassy road is being worked on. The plans are being drawn up as we speak. Paved trail and the 4 bridges. So the plan was to pave from Chester to Goshen. There are no bridges on that stretch. Next year, we're going to pave from Chester to Monroe. The 4 bridges are out for design and should be done. The contract should be awarded. It is awarded. The contract is awarded. They're working on the design plan. Should be done this year, so we can pave next year. Segment 1. You want to see that? So the Heritage Trail segment 1 is the connection between where Trailside Treats is and the parking lot and West Main. We've got some updated information on that, although I'd like to go into executive session to discuss it. If that's okay with you, or we can talk about it later, at a later date. We don't have to.
Well, yeah, I'd rather have a discussion with you. I mean, it's nothing that's pertinent and imminent to this
No,
day and time.
No, just wanted to update everybody, but I didn't, it's really not something that,
Next month,
Okay.
you and I can discuss it and then
you
next
can
month.
translate it, fine.
It's-
So that's the
if we
end of
need,
our,
we can bring it back.
that's the end of our, that works for me.
I just assume not. I don't know what's going on. We don't have a clue, so- Yeah, just a quick question. So this is kind of for the committee. the powder mill structure stabilization. Um, Would you like me to try and arrange for a group visit out there so that we could take a look at what's going on? Are you interested, not interested, or if there's not much interest, then fine, we can do it on our own individually. So, as a group? Okay, it'd just make it easier, I think, on everybody to do that, so. We'll try and figure out when the best time to do that is for everybody, to try and suit schedules as best we can. Probably in July sometime, early August, I would think. We want to let them get going a little bit.
Yeah,
They're gonna be out there for a while.
Yeah, another 30 days would be probably,
Yeah.
give a good chance to
see
go.
more. You can see some things complete and other things still work.
And-
Legislative immunity.
I did have one other thing, sorry.
Yes.
We received a grant 2 years ago, right in the middle of COVID, to address the plant life at the two ponds at Algonquin Park. So that's been finally, it's come to fruition, contractor's been hired, and, you know, that's being eradicated as we speak. Be several treatments over the next couple of weeks, and that, it's, you know, that growth, that vegetation you see there during the summer, and, you know, I'm sure that everybody gets complaints about will be addressed and permanently eliminated.
Right. Legislative Escavage.
I just had a question on the pickleball courts. I heard from Farm Bureau, I guess there's some concern with the equine people with the horse arena.
I
It's going
did,
to restrict some of the parking for the events.
I did receive a few calls.
I told them, oh,
A few calls is, well, yeah, I believe that I put all their fears to rest. You know, we have a detailed parking plan, and we have a good idea of what and how it's all going to progress. And I told them that the worst case scenario would be that on the 5 times a year that they have those events, well, actually there's 8, but there's 5 left. We would just close the pickleball courts on that day. So, you know, there's 5 more Sundays that they have reserved it. And, you know, I think we would like to try to coexist over there. And if it doesn't work the way I think it will, I have very thick skin, we'll just close the pickleball courts on those days.
Any other questions? Joe, legislative immunity, Joe. Oh,
Yeah, I think
you're giving me the
I
high
didn't
sign.
I didn't get through mine from last time.
Okay.
So, thank you. So, in general, so, item 3 out of the way, the Arboretum, land's been hired, kind of prompted me, when we're talking about the decks, right? We're looking for drawings, we're looking for all kinds of stuff. Everybody here, every department represented in the room, we had a group discussion email regarding a central repository for drawings, specs, and as-bills and warranties. So I'm hoping that moving forward, we have PDFs, all this stuff put together, so it's all put together, so everybody in every department has access to this stuff, so we're not hunting and pecking from the firm and they say, well, it's too old, and we don't have it.
You know, we made that clear to land that's our objective. So, you know, we'll get them and we'll work with DPW, and, you know, my sense is at first thought it would be, you know, Buildings and Grounds really should have that file because they're responsible for all the buildings. If you think it's better to go by department, we can do that too, but I agree 100%.
I'm thinking electronic central depository.
That works.
You guys got it, you know, we got a huge IT department here. We can centrally locate all of our stuff so that all of our assets, we can pick up the drawing or pick up the spec and find out when something was done. or how to fix it.
Hopefully ours will be the first one in there. I agree 100%.
We do have that now on the iDrive, the central repository, you know, by building. And as older stuff has been scanned in over the years, so, but projects that are older sometimes didn't get the closeout. You know, they're still in a box in the basement, or they're still in a box in, in the building's basement. So we have improved that over the years, so that's definitely something that needs more. Yes.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right, good. Seeing no other questions, I want to thank you for your participation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. You too.
All right, next we have 5 items from Department of Public Works. First item, request to create a new organization, 874504, within the Small Watershed Protection Fund 3150, as per the intermunicipal agreement for the Glenmere Lake Dam, as authorized by resolution number 224 of 2021. The anticipated 2023 budget will be $23,100 and will be appropriated from the Village of Florida 50%, Town of Chester 25%, and the County of Orange 25%, as per the intermunicipal agreement. Also requesting to accept revenue from the Village of Florida and the Town of Chester in the amount of $37,485, which represents the prorated actual costs for 2019 through 2022 and the required 2023 amount. Of the $37,485 received, $17,200 will be committed to fund the organization upon creation. Legislative request number 162. Could I get a motion in a second?
So,
Second, Legislator Tortel and Legislator Padula. Go ahead.
Thank you. The County of Orange, the Town of Chester, and the Village of Goshen are all co-owners of the Glenmere Lake Dam. And several years ago, the dam was reconstructed. And there are annual New York State DEC dam safety compliance requirements that have to take place. Inspections, some maintenance, emergency action plan updates, some engineering assessments. And all three municipalities are responsible for getting that work done. So there was an intermunicipal agreement that was entered into that outlines each municipality's responsibilities and the percentage of cost sharing that they are responsible for. And this request is to set up the fund to allow us to pay for those services, and then also to accept as revenue money back from Chester and Florida to compensate for 2019 through 2022 compliance activities that the county had covered. And then also to add funds to that org for projected expenses for 2023 or 2023.
Okay, questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
So out of the 37,485, 17,200 is going to go to create the new organization. And then the other roughly 20,285 is to offset the costs of expenses we've already incurred, or?
That the county did, because there wasn't an agreement in place. And we still were taking care of all those compliance items that we had to take care of through DPW's operating budget. So the consultants that prepared the emergency action updates, the certifications, inspections, things like that were covered through DPW's budget at that time, because there wasn't an org to set it up.
The 17.2 would be to fund the org for 2024 is projected.
Correct.
That's for the initial. We would bill the village and the town for their portion of that too, but that's just to get it up and running, similar to how we have the walkout. The 37 includes the actuals that were said, but then also 23s projected that haven't been paid yet. So we would use part of it to fund the 24 once the work is created for in 2024.
And then the remainder, like I said, is being paid basically for the remainder of this year, what we incurred in 2023, and for the 2 previous years that were discussing. Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay, next we have a request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget for ADA improvements. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 23. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. $50,000 bonding. Legislative request number 161.
I'll move that.
Second.
Legislator Tortel. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for an annual program. We always come in for ADA improvements as needed for $50,000. This allows us to repair stuff as it comes up. If we have any issues, this will also allow us, once we do our ADA evaluation of all the buildings, which we're working on now, developing the RFP for that. Having money in this account will allow us to move on some of those items, some of the very important items that we have after that evaluation is done.
Questions or comments?
You said you're working on a plan now. We've had a plan for years, right? We're just trying to work through it, or you?
No, we're working on a new plan to evaluate. I think you guys approved money in
Right.
21 or 22, I think. So
Oh,
that
so that plan is
RFP,
not ready.
that RFP is not going out yet. No. We just got the list together and the RFP will be going out soon.
Good. Any legislator Tucktail?
So if there is an issue that's brought to your attention by the public or one of the facility managers, this money will help correct that before this plan comes along.
Yes.
I hate to see something happen that we have a, handicap accessibility not in place because we're waiting on a plan.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Legislator Menuda?
Thank you. So I see this every year and it's needed based on the things that we need to achieve. Unless I misunderstood something, I thought that we were upgrading all of our facilities for ADA compliance through ARPA funds.
No, I think that's sales tax. That was sales tax money that was approved at 300,000.
That was in that long list. Utilize the sales tax. I hope
Yes.
you're correct.
So one of the initiatives that we discussed, and I don't know if we got a quick plan, was to ensure that all of our buildings were ADA compliant, utilizing those funds.
Again, I think that was the sales tax, that there was a separate plan that we talked about with the ARPA money, but I think that dropped off the ARPA list. But I'll have to check on that for you.
Okay.
But we definitely have the money and we've generated the list of all county buildings and the public visits. It's about 20 buildings, I think.
Appreciate that. Obviously, it's an important thing. The law came out in 1992. There's absolutely no reason why we should have any ADA compliance issues. So I don't even know if $50,000 is enough. I'd like to get them all hammered out and done once and for all.
It's probably not, but I think the county did this in 2011. I think we went through, it might have even been maybe 2006 or something. I know we've done it in the past, so we have to do it again.
I'm just recalling the discussions from last year. So if you could please help refresh my memory as to where that was, or perhaps Chairwoman could do that. I'd really appreciate it to make sure that we're closing that loop.
All right, other discussions, comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Next, request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget for building equipment replacement and installation. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 26. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, $150,000 bonding, legislative request number 163. Can I get a motion in a second?
So
Legislator Menuda, second Tortel. Go ahead.
And it's another annual program we do for our buildings, building equipment, boilers, air conditioners, rooftop units, ventilation. So this one is for 150, and we have on the docket next, I'd like to replace the boiler in the courthouse next door. The boilers are 24 years old now, so they're getting long on the tooth, as I said, so it's time. That's close.
Questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
Has there been any issues with the boiler or the heating in the building at this point?
In this building?
Yeah.
No, not at this
The
point.
main courthouse?
The main, this is the main courthouse, this is next.
That's
door.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The building that you're proposing to replace the boiler for.
One of, there's two boilers there, so one of them has, right now, we run one all the time, one is just a backup because it has issues. We replaced some tubes in it already. So it's, it's getting old. They're cast iron tube fired boilers.
You're running them boilers in eagle eye, is that what you're saying? Or you're not, you're just switching whenever?
Switching whenever at this point, because the one is very reliable and the one is not so reliable.
And when it's not so,
Yes. That's been our experience over the last few years with that. So we'd like to get that corrected so we can run them leak lag correctly. So that it runs, get equal hours on each boiler.
Legislator Menuda.
Thanks. They're about 25 years old now, and we have a problem getting parts for them at all, or?
Not really, because they're pretty common boilers. So there's not really an issue. They're not exotic boilers. They're Burnham, commercial size boilers up there.
Thanks. Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Next, we have a request supplemental appropriation to capital project budget for various building improvements. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 27. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. $350,000 bonding, legislative request number 164. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Legislator Muda, Legislator Tortel, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. This is another one of our annual programs we do. It's for $350,000 each year. This is for general building improvements. You get it both inside and outside. So I'd like to do get on a courthouse over there, get a lot of attention over there, but it's time. It needs a roof replacement or roof rehabilitation, not replacement at this point. Some work at 18 sewer, just some exterior work there, concrete, masonry, railing repair. And we've done some work at the DPW admin building, updating some office space, and we're going to continue on that program this year.
Questions or comments? Minority Leader Padu.
So you have money left over?
Yes.
And how much do you have in the season?
Right now, there's about 390 left over.
Okay. So you're gonna use it all of it, basically, make all the repair.
Yes,
So next year you'll have fresh ideas for fresh
I
money.
do. Yes.
Other questions or comments? Legislator Tortel.
Okay, so you're asking for 350,000, yet the total of the work you gave us on this third page is 675.
That's correct. And we have 390 currently.
Okay, 390 currently. And then the port annex roof,
Mhm.
are you proposing doing the same thing that you proposed on the last couple of roofs? I think there was the jail.
And the jail, yes.
And there was another building that we did a roof on recently. Golf course or something by the college. I can't remember exactly. what-
Might have been a college roof. which
Yeah, it might have been them
sounds like-
separately, but they were doing the same product. So you're gonna use
Right.
that same product?
Yes. Yeah, we're currently doing a jail now. and It's not very well. Going very well over there.
Legislator Muda.
Thank
What kind
you.
of roof?
The rehab or the one that's there?
The annex roof rehabilitation, one, what's the type of roofing? Two, when was it last replaced?
That roof is original over there, so it's about 25 years old, or 24 years old, age of the courthouse, so we'll be, when we get to it next year, it'll be 25 years old. It's an EPDM roof over there now, that's in pretty decent shape, so it's a good candidate for rehabilitation, just like we've done with the jail.
Okay, rehabilitation meaning what, you're applying the paint over it, give it another 5 years, or?
It's more than a paint, it's a coating, it's like a two-stage coating that the jail is gonna have a 30-year warranty when they're done.
Right, so
So that's-
it's to extend warranty?
Yes,
Got it,
yep.
you're not replacing it, just,
Not replacing it, yeah, we're
I want
calling
to be clear, thank you very much.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Next, request supplemental appropriation of capital projects budget for asbestos and lead removal at various locations. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 25. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, $50,000 in bonding. Legislative request number 165. Could I get a motion in a second,
So
please?
moved.
Legislator Tortel, Legislator Padu, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is another annual program we do, the amount of 50,000 for any asbestos or lead issues that come up throughout the year in our buildings, so we can move, quickly on and take care of them. It also helps with reporting and, we have to assess what's there. We still have some older buildings with asbestos in them, DPWs, the admin building, Middletown Community Campus, and also Camp LaGuardia would allow us to do some smaller stuff there if we needed to.
Questions or comments?
There's 45,000 last year.
So you're already planning on using 95,000?
Yes.
And what sites are you gonna, if you know what you're spending money on, where?
It would be probably Camp LaGuardia right now unless we had something come up in admin building or FCC.
Legislator Menuda.
So similar comment to B that I had earlier, ARPA funding, we talked about getting rid of asbestos in every single building we have, utilizing those funds. County executive mentioned it at AOT, and I'm curious as to, is that being incorporated here, or again, is that something that fell off too?
I can't answer that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe that's included in the ARPA funding. I think the college has some money, including the ARPA funding for asbestos, but I don't think DPW didn't contemplate it for Camp LaGuardia. I mean, that's our major site right now.
I'll have a discussion with the CE on that, because that was definitely one of the programs that we're gonna do with the ARPA funds. So, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You think maybe we could get a copy of the ARPA funding again? How, I know we had colored sheets. You have yours there?
Yep.
Can-
I never leave home without it.
Can I look at it while you're sure?
No, she's there.
So. All right. No further questions or comments. I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have, I'm not sure it's a discussion, but it's probably more of an update. But State Superfund site reclassification of the Orange County landfill. Robert Gray, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Public Works, Environmental Facilities and Services. Thank you for being here today. Sure. I thought since there was an announcement, and this is something moving in a positive direction, it'd be a good opportunity to give us a little bit of a background, primarily on what this step means for the county.
Sure. You should have all received a lot of information in your packets. Basically, in May, this site was reclassified from a class 2 to a class 4. And it's in that information you got. There's classification codes that run from 1 through 5, 1 being the most problematic and 5 being least. After 5, it becomes unlisted. So we went from a 2 to a 4, which is, as Barry said, a big improvement. And that's a result of a lot of work since the landfill closed. Landfill operated from 1974 till 1992. It's been closed since January 31st of 92. So there's been a lot of attention to that since 1992. Currently, there's a thing called a PCM. It's a post-closure monitoring report. It's given to DEC annually. That includes sampling of the atmosphere. There's vents on the landfill. You see that they're checked for gas emissions. A lot of water sampling. There's a horizontal well that was installed between the toe of the bank of the landfill and the Cheechunk Canal, and that gets dewatered and leachate is collected in trucks both sites. So all those things I think added up to the reclassification. Any questions on the next?
Yeah, so does it kind of change our ongoing obligations in any way at this point?
Not at this point, no.
So we'll still continue to pump the leachate, we'll still do the annual report.
Yeah, the goal would be to get it to a classification of 5 and ultimately declassify.
Questions?
Just our background, the landfill is a 75-acre site on the county property there, which includes the transfer station. That whole facility is 300 acres.
That being recovery is still going on? Is that-
No, that's been abandoned, not abandoned, but it wasn't functioning, it wasn't producing any more methane. So we actually have a project
to convert that building to to store material for our household hazardous waste events. And to increase the number of those, we'll utilize that building.
Would we ever do anything with the expansion? We never did.
Expansion of
Well, the landfill, we never used it. Never.
Correct. The
Gate was never unlocked.
the cells, the expansion cells, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, currently, those are being all looked at for utilization by NYSERDA for, we're looking into solar panels on that, on the landfill. And,
So that's still active?
Yes, it
What's
is.
the progress status?
They're
on
doing
that?
due diligence, they're working with DEC about permits. You know, we would need a modification of our DEC landfill permit to allow that. But NYSERDA, they have a program of locating solar fields on closed landfills. So we're utilizing them to do this.
So is it going to be on the closed landfill or both the closed and the new cell?
They're looking at the new cells as well, but there are some wetland issues there, and that's another reason that they're with DEC, because DEC regulates that as well as the permit for the land.
We did mitigate setting aside the acres for service, right? It was rule was used to be 2 acres for 1 acre, right?
Oh, for the wetland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we did that a long time ago.
Yeah, but they're
I think it was part of this salt lawsuit, which I didn't go for.
honestly way before my time.
Long time ago.
But currently, that's what's
They
going on
canceled
with
myself
NYSERDA.
one.
And the idea is NYSERDA, well, this is kind of getting off the topic, but NYSERDA does all the due diligence. They hire the consultants to design the solar field. It goes out to bid, and ultimately the county will end up with a lease payment from the ultimate developer of that.
Well, let's look at that closer, because it didn't work out at the one section.
Yeah, well, it wasn't this kind of program. I think that was done in-house. I mean, NYSERDA's in the business. It's pretty attractive. But there's a preliminary agreement allowing them to do the due diligence and work with DEC and determine what we can put there for any next step.
Okay, questions or comments? Legislator Menuda, sorry, just completely out of my wheelhouse on this thing, so class 2 to class, I would never do it. Class 2 to class 4, and then you say class 5 to class 5. So basically what happens is what we have to do procedures over time and.
Well, we're continuing to monitor.
And get rid of all this stuff.
We're continuing to monitor groundwater, monitor gas, the vents, and as hopefully that all diminishes, then it comes down to even a class 5 or possibly declassified. But class 4 we're pretty good.
So basically it just gets better over time.
Yeah, because we are removing leachate from that horizontal well, so anything that's seeping out gets removed.
Thank you. It may never go away.
It may never, yeah.
The requirements to achieve class 5 means that basically we can walk away and ignore it.
Yeah.
You know, that would mean no more monitoring, no more leachate pumping.
I think we should be happy with the class 4.
Yeah.
Well, there's requirements, we have to continue to monitor. No.
So
All right.
we're not in this boat alone. So there's a lot of others out there in the state. Sure. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
And I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Legislator Patel, second by Legislator Menuda. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank